Good afternoon and welcome. I'm Michael Rivera, CCAP President and Berks County Commissioner. I hope you enjoyed this morning's sessions and found them beneficial. Before we begin our meal, let us take a moment of silence to reflect and give thanks in many ways that are meaningful to each one of us. I'm going to ask you to please stand so we can reflect on the moments of silence. Thank you. You may be seated. To kick off our lunch and offer some opening remarks, we are honored to welcome back the 28th Governor of Pennsylvania, Josh Shapiro. Governor Shapiro joined us last year as well, so we're really appreciative of his efforts to come and speak to the CCAP membership. Governor Shapiro has committed to partnering with counties, and we know he has a strong understanding of what we do since he is a former Montgomery County Commissioner and CCAP member as well. So I want to thank Governor Shapiro for joining us today. Give him a round of applause.
Thank you. Hey, everybody. How's everybody doing? All right? Good. Who's good? What county is good? Hey, let me say thanks to Commissioner Rivera. This is the second time in less than a week. I think we were together at RAC at the Reading Area Community College just the other day with his colleague, Commissioner Lineback, which, by the way, Commissioner Lineback was the chair of this organization when I was commissioner. Now you're the chair. I'm going to say it's the first time ever that we've had two chairs from the same county. I don't know if that's true or not, but it seems like a fun fact that should be true. And congratulations to what's happening in Berks County and the impressive leadership there. And let me say to Commissioner Chip from Venango County, I do know his last name. I just prefer to say Commissioner Chip. And to all of the leaders of CCAP, sincerely thank you for all that you do. County commissioners are where the rubber meets the road. And I'm proud to have been a former county commissioner, and I'm told the first ever governor elected who had been a county commissioner. And so I just want you to know I appreciate the work you do. I know how important the work you do is, and I salute the work you do. Let me say to all of our new commissioners who are here, those who just won an election in November, congratulations. This is an extraordinary job. You will love the work you do. And I encourage you to take this time during CCAP meetings to get to know one another, to spend time learning from what's happening in other counties. And one of the things, while we all come to these jobs with our particular worldview or perspective or certainly party identification, one of the things I always appreciate about CCAP and the work that commissioners do is, in many ways, the work we do is really nonpartisan. It's just about delivering good services and delivering meaningful results to the people of your counties. And so embrace this time you have together, embrace one another and learn from one another and appreciate the important work CCAP does. I know I did and I still do today as your governor. I want you to know that our administration wants to be a complementary force for the work that you do day in and day out. That's why we engage directly with Lisa Schaefer, your outstanding executive director, as well as CCAP's executive team. Every month, Jacqueline Rhodes, a senior member of my administration, together with the members of the Office of Public Affairs, meet with CCAP's executive team so we can both keep you updated on the work we're doing as well as hear from you about the things that are important on your agenda. And I know you're in touch with our regional directors on a regular basis in your respective communities. I think this is really an unprecedented relationship between CCAP, our county commissioners, and the governor's administration. And I believe that the unprecedented relationship we have has led to us getting a lot of important stuff done for the good people of Pennsylvania. In my first year as governor, we worked together to deliver record investments in economic development, indigent defense, mental health, education, public safety, and much more. And I should note for all of you, I'm the only governor in the entire nation with a divided legislature, the House led by Democrats, Senate led by Republicans. So for us to get anything done, we've got to come together, as you do on a daily basis, in a bipartisan manner to make progress. We have been able to put points on the board for the good people of Pennsylvania. And we've also been able to respond to crises. And many of those crises we've responded to have been together with all of you, from the train derailment in East Palestine, Ohio, which directly impacted Beaver and Lawrence counties, to the flooding in places like Berks, Bucks, Northampton, and Lackawanna. Every time we've confronted a crisis, we've had the opportunity to work closely with county commissioners who are on the front lines. We've been able to complement your efforts and where we can deliver the resources you need to support your county and your constituents. This year, I want us to be able to build on the progress that we've made, the trust that we've built in one another, so we can get more stuff done for the good people of Pennsylvania. You know, my administration lives by 3 simple letters. I know many of you do as well. GSD. We focus on getting stuff done for the good people of Pennsylvania. So let's take a look at my new budget proposal that I unveiled about a month ago. Some of you were there when I gave my budget address in the rotunda of our state capitol. Our new budget focuses more on getting stuff done. And I know there will be some give and take with the legislature, as there should be going forward. But I'm hopeful that you will help work with us to advance our common goals, the common investments that we want to see benefit our counties and our Commonwealth. And so let's talk about a few of those investments. And let's begin by talking about how we're going to create jobs and grow our economy, particularly in communities that have been left behind and too oftentimes shut out. I know everyone in this room cares deeply about creating good paying jobs for Pennsylvanians, jobs that allow them to support themselves and their families, that give them the opportunity to succeed here in this Commonwealth. I believe Pennsylvania should be a place where everyone has the freedom to chart their own course and the opportunity to succeed. And we shouldn't ignore communities that have been fallen behind. We shouldn't ignore those communities that have been hollowed out. Now is the time to invest in them and give everybody that freedom to succeed here in Pennsylvania. In order to both create jobs and grow our economy, we need to invest more than we have before. Consider this for a moment. We are falling behind our neighboring states, places like Ohio, New York, and New Jersey. They all invest more in economic development than Pennsylvania does. Consider this, for those of you on the West, you know our neighbor of Ohio has 1.5 million fewer people than the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Yet they invest 7 times more in economic development than we do in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And let's be clear, their investment is paying off. And for too many years, Pennsylvania fell behind. In my first year as governor, we made strides in that area, and we made some meaningful investments. In addition to that, we put forth the first economic development strategy for the Commonwealth in the last 20 years. We now have a roadmap for progress that focuses on all of our communities across Pennsylvania in key areas, from energy to agriculture to life sciences, manufacturing, robotics, and technology. These are the areas that are going to help us compete and win going forward. One of the most important investments we need to make, that, by the way, other states have made and we have not over the last decade or more, is in site development across Pennsylvania, especially in our rural communities. That's why I proposed in my budget a major new investment where we will bond $500 million to develop sites all across Pennsylvania, so they are ready to go for would-be employers. Those sites are going to help us attract companies to the Commonwealth and give some of the businesses already here the opportunity to be able to expand. And when those businesses set up shop here in our Commonwealth, well, we want to make sure that the new employees there, well, they have great communities to live in, where main streets are lined with shops and small businesses are plentiful and our housing stock is affordable. I spent time on a lot of those main streets, both as a candidate for governor and, of course, over the last year as governor. And in particular, over the last month or so, as I've been working to drum up support for a major new investment I want to make in main streets across Pennsylvania. I've been to Mount Lebanon in Allegheny County, Honesdale in Wayne County, Ridley Park in Delco, and Lemoyne in Cumberland County, and many others. In fact, some of you joined me on those Main Street walks to help us get done what I've proposed, a new $25 million investment just for main streets across Pennsylvania. One of the most extraordinary things about this Commonwealth is that for as different as the terrain looks, rural, urban, and suburban, every community has a main street. Now, sometimes the main streets have high rises and sometimes they've got, single-story buildings. But you can tell a lot about the health of a community based on the health and vitality of its main street. Now is the time for us to invest more in our main streets, to build off the successful Keystone Communities program to support our small businesses, our downtowns, all across Pennsylvania. I need your help to get that done. At the same time, we're going to launch the Pennsylvania Regional Competitiveness Challenge to incentivize regional planning and give you all more resources to be able to develop strategic plans for long-term growth. Hear me on this. I said this last year and I'll say it again. I do not believe it is the job of my administration to come into your counties and tell you how to do it. I do believe it is my administration's job to complement the planning that you've already done, to incentivize your work with other counties, to get your townships and municipalities to better work together. And I recognize that the expertise and the resources we have can be complementary to your work in that area. And I encourage you to work with Jacqueline and our team at DCED in order to take advantage of those regional planning grants. Main streets and our site development, those aren't the only areas that we want to invest in. By the way, I encourage you to take a look at our economic development strategy plan, which you can find online, and Jacqueline will make sure CCAP has physical copies of it. We want to invest in other areas as well. We need to make sure our communities have an adequate amount of affordable housing so we can grow our economy. I know affordable housing is a priority of CCAP. Part of ensuring that there is enough affordable housing in our communities is doing more to help people be able to stay in their own homes. Consider this for a moment. Over 60% of the housing stock in Pennsylvania was built prior to 1970, and many of those homes are in dire need of repair. Nearly every county in Pennsylvania is responsible for driving funds to homeowners and renters through what we call the Whole Homes Repair Program, which has been wildly successful. But we've distributed all of the initial money that was allocated for that program. Demand was so strong that there is a wait list in most counties across Pennsylvania, especially in our rural counties. In Potter County, for example, as of January, they allocated all of their funding, and there are 8 times as many people on the wait list there as there are dollars for the program. Indiana County has enough funding for about 25 projects, but they received 75 applications. We can't leave struggling homeowners out to dry. That's why I want to invest an additional $50 million in the Whole Home Repair Program to help more Pennsylvanians both stay in and take care of their homes. We, of course, also need to make sure that we have more affordable housing in Pennsylvania. And one of the most effective tools we have for that is the Housing Trust Fund, or the FARE program, PHARE. I've proposed to increase the cap on that Housing Trust Fund to $100 million over the next 4 years to be able to build more affordable housing in your respective communities. We've heard from many of you in this room, along with others, about that you need more help on affordable housing, on helping people repair their housing, as well as on addressing the crisis of homelessness in your communities. That's why my budget also includes a $10 million increase in the Homelessness Assistance Program to help prevent homelessness in the first place and to be able to provide rental assistance and emergency housing for those who need it most. As we invest in housing, as we invest in our communities, I know, of course, we need to take care of our people, especially when it comes to taking care of the mental health of those that we serve. Counties, I know, are on the front lines of this, and I know it's one of your top priorities to secure more investments to meet the growing demand of those who are dealing with mental health challenges. I hear you loud and clear when you say you don't have enough, and I'm ready to work with you to invest more money in county mental health services. Last year, we began to restore funding that was cut over a decade ago, back when I was a county commissioner, putting $20 million more toward these mental health programs in the counties. This year, my budget proposes an additional $20 million on top of that, bringing the new total investment in county mental health services to $40 million. I also want to invest in keeping the 988 crisis hotline operational and supporting more resources for walk-in mental health crisis centers. I know that the needs in your community is great, and I'm also keenly aware that you have said you need more than what we've initially proposed. Right now, I need your voices engaged in this budget process. I said before, and I'll repeat it, I'm the only governor in the nation with a divided legislature. Now is the time for Democrats and Republicans alike to talk to your respective state representatives and senators and let them know we need to prioritize mental health to our counties and mental health all across this Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And just like more resources for mental health, I know you care deeply about making sure our communities are safe. When Pennsylvanians pick up the phone to call during an emergency, of course they rely heavily on the local 911 dispatch centers and rely on you sending the police out to give them the help that they need, dispatching those first responders, dispatching those mental health professionals to get them to the scene as quickly as possible. Last year, we came together, Democrats and Republicans alike, in our state capitol to raise an additional $43 million for the next 2 years for emergency dispatch. This was a significant first step to bolster 911, and I recognize we have more to do. We've now got to build on this work and make sure that our first responders are equipped to do the vital work of responding to crises all across our communities. This year, my budget does just that by doubling down on our investment in the State Fire Commissioner's Fire and EMS Grant Program. I've had the chance to spend a lot of time in fire stations and emergency centers all across our Commonwealth, most recently from Johnstown to the city of Chester, where they told me about how they need help rebuilding these rundown firehouses and dealing with their colleagues' mental health challenges. We have to keep on our shared work when it comes to this space to ensure all of our first responders are well-staffed, well-funded, and well-equipped. This is another thing we need to work together on. And while I know you are tasked with keeping people safe, you're also making sure that everyone gets a fair shot and everyone gets proper legal representation. But up until now, you hadn't gotten any help from the state to do just that. Before I was elected your governor, Pennsylvania was one of only 2 states in the entire nation that didn't provide any state funding for indigent defense, no funding for public defenders. Again, I remember this as a county commissioner, not getting any help from the state. When I campaigned for governor, I talked about how we needed to lose that distinction. And in my first budget, I insisted that we finally fund public defenders in our counties. And last year, Democrats and Republicans alike came together to lose that shameful distinction and to be able to deliver $7.5 million for poor defendants that's now being driven out through PCCD under the leadership of Lieutenant Governor Austin Davis. I'm keenly aware that that $7.5 million is just a down payment on the greater need. That's why in my budget this year, we proposed an additional $10 million, bringing that fund ideally up to nearly $20 million a year for our counties. I want you to know we are not stopping in just the case of criminal defendants. We know we need more legal support in our counties. For the first time ever, my budget proposes to ensure Pennsylvanians facing eviction will have access to legal counsel. That is critically important in communities all across Pennsylvania. Finally, I think it's really important that we recognize the work you all did to uphold and safeguard our democracy in elections past. Every year, you do the critical work of running our elections, ensuring that they remain free and fair, safe and secure, not to dictate to people who they should vote for, but to make sure that their votes are counted properly, to make sure that the will of the people is respected in counties all across Pennsylvania. Know this, as long as I am your governor, you will have a partner here in our state capitol committed to strengthening our democracy. Tomorrow, you will hear from two leaders in my administration, the Secretary of the Commonwealth, Al Schmidt, along with Colonel Christopher Paris, who leads the state police, about our elections threat task force that I announced last week and the work that we are doing to combat misinformation and voter intimidation and ways in which we want to partner with you in that effort. You all play a critical role in that work. And through this new task force, we'll continue to work with you as we work to protect the rights of all Pennsylvanians. It is important, of course, for each of us to have our own political viewpoints. And I recognize that that may cause some divisions at times. But we are all united in this work to defend our democracy and ensure that we, again, have a free and fair, safe and secure election here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. I know that it is a responsibility of all elected officials, but particularly this group, to show the government can be a positive, productive force for good in the lives of Pennsylvanians, to do everything we can for the good people of Pennsylvania. That's the work that I'm trying to do in my administration. And in order for us to be effective in this work, now is the time for us to invest in meeting the needs of the good people of Pennsylvania. I recognize you all are steeped in your own individual budgets in your counties, and it's probably hard for you to focus on the budget of this Commonwealth. But let me just share with you the following. Today, Pennsylvania sits on a $14 billion budget surplus. My budget is balanced. My budget cuts taxes. It does not raise them. And even if every single initiative that I've laid out passes, and I recognize we'll have some give and take, but even if every single initiative that I've laid out passes, we will still have an $11 billion surplus in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Now is a moment for us to invest in housing and mental health, to invest in economic development, to invest in making sure our communities are safe and strong. Now is the time for Democrats and Republicans alike to come together and make these critical investments. In order for that to happen, I need your help. I recognize we've got many shared priorities here. I'm also very mindful that your state representatives and your senators in your respective counties need and want to hear from you. About your priorities. Let them know the kind of priority mental health is. And if you want, tell them you got to plus up Shapiro's number. Let them know how important it is for you to have the resources you need for affordable housing. Let them know the success that the whole home repair has been in your communities. Let them know about the dire needs when it comes to our mental health services and other social services in our communities. You don't need to be out there campaigning for Governor Shapiro's budget. You should be campaigning for your own values, for your own priorities. And I know they match with the priorities that we've laid out in my budget. But please engage with your elected officials and let them know how important it is to make these investments. Now is a time in Pennsylvania where we can afford to invest. And quite frankly, we can't afford not to invest given the significant needs that we have. I want to thank you for both giving me the training of being an effective public servant by virtue of being a county commissioner. I want to thank you for the partnership that you have shown us during the first year of my administration, and I look forward to us continuing to work together for the good of the people of Pennsylvania. Thank you all. God bless you, and I appreciate the work that you do. Thank you. Thank you.